I found out my wife was cheating while my son was singing the birthday song. No warning, no slow build-up, just 25 people in my backyard, a Spider-Man bouncy castle swing in the breeze, and the woman I thought I'd grow old with sneaking off into the house on the one day that was supposed to be about our boy. He had chocolate frosting on his nose. He was so happy, clapping offbeat as we all sang happy birthday under a string of dollar store streamers. And there I was, phone in hand, taking pictures, unknowingly capturing the last normal moment of my marriage. I didn't even notice she was gone at first. There were too many people, too much noise. She'd said something about grabbing more juice boxes. But when 10 minutes passed, then 15, and she still wasn't back, I went inside to look for her. The fridge was open. Juice boxes were sitting on the counter, untouched. The sliding door to the side hallway was half closed. And then I heard her laugh. Not the kind of laugh you make when you're chatting with your kid's teacher or a neighbor. No, this was that softer, slower, almost whispered laugh. The kind I hadn't heard in months. Not from her. Not for me. I followed the sound. I wasn't thinking anything yet, just a weird gut feeling, like something was bending out of shape, but I couldn't see what. Then I saw it. Not directly. Just the reflection. A mirror down the hallway caught just enough angle of the frosted glass door to the laundry room. And through it, I saw two shadows. Too close. Too still. I stepped toward it. Slow. Quiet. The way you move when your brain doesn't want what your body already knows is true. I opened the door. She gasped. He jumped back. It was Ethan. Another dad. One of the party guests. His son was in my kid's class. Her hands were still on him. I didn't yell. I didn't ask questions. I just walked out the front door, got in my car, and called my brother. He picked up on the third ring. I need you to finish the party, I said. Now. Why? What happened? I'm about to destroy my marriage. I parked my car a few blocks away in an empty grocery store lot and just sat there. I wasn't thinking clearly. My hands were on the wheel, but I didn't even remember driving. I checked my phone. No messages from her. No missed calls. No, where are you? Or, what's wrong? Or even a half-hearted excuse. That silence? That was louder than anything she could have said. She wasn't worried about me. She was worried I saw. After about 20 minutes, my brother texted me. Party's fine. Kids are bouncing. Lisa said you had work stuff? You okay? I didn't reply. Instead, I opened the Notes app and just started typing. Lisa. Laundry room. Ethan. 5th birthday. 3:47 p.m. Juice boxes untouched. I wasn't sure why I was documenting it. Instinct maybe. But something in me already knew this wasn't going to be one of those stupid things couples work through. Something deeper was broken, and it had been for a while. I just hadn't wanted to see it. I scrolled through my camera roll. There it was. The picture I'd taken of our son blowing out his candles, 2 minutes before I caught her. His smile. His tiny fists clapping. Her nowhere in sight. I stared at the photo for a long time. Then I got in my car and drove to my parents' place. They lived 15 minutes away, and I knew they'd be home. My dad was out in the garage working on his lawnmower. My mom was upstairs folding laundry. I told them I needed to crash for the night. Didn't explain why. They didn't ask. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not even a minute. Lisa still hadn't called. The next morning, around 7:15 a.m., she texted me. Where are you? You left yesterday. Are you okay? Just that. Nothing more. I stared at it for 10 straight minutes. Then I typed. I saw everything. 3 dots. Typing. Then they vanished. 10 minutes later. Please come home. Let's talk. I didn't reply. Instead, I sat at the edge of my childhood bed, holding my phone like it weighed 20 pounds, and tried to breathe. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel anymore. Hurt? Rage? Grief? I felt all of them. And none of them. All I knew was, I couldn't go back to pretending. Not after this. I came back the next day around noon. Not because I was ready to talk. Not because I forgave her. I came back because of my son. Because he didn't understand where I went. Because he deserved more than this chaos. When I pulled into the driveway, I saw her silhouette through the window. She must have been watching for me. I didn't even make it halfway to the door before it flew open. She stood there in leggings and an oversized sweatshirt, like it was just a lazy Sunday. Her hair was pulled back messily, no makeup, eyes swollen, but not from crying, from not sleeping. She tried to say something, but I walked right past her into the house. The silence hit me first. No music, no cartoons, no little feet stomping around. Just the faint hum of the fridge. My son was at her sister's for the night, she said later. That was probably the smartest thing she'd done since this started. I didn't know you were coming back, she said quietly, closing the door behind me. I didn't answer. She followed me into the kitchen. Can we talk? I sat down at the table and stared at the exact spot where she had stacked the party cups yesterday. My son had been laughing right here. Ethan had stood near the sink. She'd handed him a cupcake and smiled at him like they were sharing a secret. And maybe they were. Talk? I said, finally. She hesitated, like she didn't know where to start. It wasn't what it looked like. I actually laughed. It was short, bitter, and more tired than angry. Oh, I said, because what I saw was you with your hands in another man's back pockets. In our laundry room, while our son was blowing out his candles outside. It was a mistake. Which part? The part where you kissed him? Or the part where you ditched your son's birthday to sneak off with him while I was serving cake? She said nothing. I leaned back in the chair. How long has it been going on? Lisa shook her head. It wasn't like that. It was just, it's not an affair. It wasn't. How long? She bit her lip. Eyes wet now. A few weeks, she said. I stared at her. Didn't blink. Then I stood up, walked to the sink, filled a glass of water, took a sip, and kept my back to her. I wasn't mad at her for the timeline. I was mad because I didn't believe it for a second. You're lying, I said quietly. I'm not, she said too fast. I swear. It's new. It just happened. I don't even know how. I turned around. I do, I said. You liked the attention. You liked that he looked at you like you were the center of the room. And you didn't care who got hurt so long as you got to feel that way for a few minutes longer. That landed. She flinched. I made a mistake. She whispered again. Please, can we just talk? Like really talk? Now you want to talk, I said. After you humiliated me. After you made our son's birthday the day I'll never forget for all the wrong reasons. I looked her in the eyes. You want to talk? Then tell me this. Why didn't you come find me after I left? Why didn't you call? Or check on me? Or even pretend to care? She said nothing. Just stood there, arms crossed, like she was cold. I walked past her, went upstairs, and packed a small bag. When I came down, she was still there, in the same spot. I'm not sure when I'll be back, I said. She blinked, panicked. What do you mean? I mean I need space. Real space. Not the kind where you text me once and call it a day. You've got a lot to figure out, Lisa. And so do I. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. You don't get to touch me right now, I said. And then I walked out the door. Again, I stayed at my parents' place for 2 more nights. I didn't unpack the bag I'd thrown together before I left. Something about opening it, putting my clothes in drawers again, felt too permanent, like admitting this was real. On the 3rd morning, my mom brought me a cup of coffee and sat down across from me at the kitchen table. Did you and Lisa have a fight? She asked gently. I nodded. Bad. I shrugged. She didn't push, just patted my hand, left the cup, and walked away. That evening, I got a message from Mel, one of Lisa's friends. Not a close friend of mine, but someone I'd known through school parties and birthday events. She had been at the party. Hey, I probably shouldn't say anything, but I saw you leave, and the way Lisa looked after. Just wanted to say I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. I stared at it for a while, then replied, How long has it been going on? She didn't respond right away. About 30 minutes later. I don't know for sure, but I saw them getting close at Miles's party. That was almost 2 months ago. Same guy, right? 2 months. Lisa had told me it had been a few weeks. And here was the first crack in that version of the truth. I opened my camera roll and scrolled back to early spring. Sure enough, Miles's birthday. There was a photo from that day. In the background, Lisa and Ethan standing near the snack table. She had her hand on his arm. He was leaning in, smiling like they shared some secret. At the time, I thought nothing of it. Now, it made my stomach turn. Later that night, my friend Mark called. We hadn't spoken in a couple weeks, but word was clearly getting around. His tone was cautious. Hey, man, I heard things are rough between you and Lisa. Yeah, I said. More than rough. He paused. I didn't know if I should say anything, but a while back someone mentioned they'd seen her being, I don't know, extra friendly with that Ethan guy. I brushed it off. Thought people were just stirring things up. They weren't. Another pause. I always thought she needed attention, he said quietly. Like, she needed to be the center of things. You never did. You were just solid. That stuck with me. Solid. Like a compliment and an insult all at once. The next morning, she texted again. I miss you. Please let me explain. It wasn't what it looked like. There it was again, her favorite line. It's not what it looked like. As if maybe I'd imagined the hands in the back pockets. The whispering in our laundry room. The flinch when I opened the door. She still thought this was salvageable. That she could backpedal her way out of it. That if she twisted the timeline enough, played the right emotional cards, I'd forget what I saw. But something had shifted in me. I started making notes. Not just thoughts, actual records. Dates. People who saw things. Messages. Conversations. Anything that might help me track the truth. I didn't know what I was going to do with it all yet. I just knew I wasn't going to let her bury the truth with guilt trips and vague apologies. Because for the first time since it started, I realized something. Other people had seen it. They just hadn't told me. And now, piece by piece, it was all coming out. It was a Thursday when she showed up at my parents' house. No warning. No call. Just a knock at the door while I was in the garage helping my dad with a stubborn patch of rust on the side of his old truck. My mom poked her head out and said, Lisa's here. I wiped my hands, took a breath, and told my dad I needed a minute. He nodded, silent. She was standing on the front porch, arms folded like she was cold, even though it was 72 degrees. Her makeup was minimal, which wasn't normal for her, but her eyes were lined red, and she had that practiced look like she'd been rehearsing the whole drive over. Can we talk? She asked. I stepped outside and pulled the door closed behind me. Didn't invite her in. We stood there for a few seconds, facing each other. A weird silence hung in the air. Not tension exactly, more like the final pause before something falls apart. She started with the usual. I know you're hurt. I made a mistake. I should have come after you right away. I didn't know what to say. I didn't answer. I need you to know it wasn't serious. It was stupid. I was stupid. I looked at her, dead in the eyes. Stop saying was. This isn't past tense. She flinched, but only for a moment. Then her voice shifted, softer, almost wounded. I was feeling so alone, she said. Like you weren't really seeing me anymore. You were always busy, tired, distracted. I didn't go looking for anything. It just happened. There it was. The shift from, I messed up, to here's why it's kind of your fault. I didn't interrupt. I wanted to hear it all. I wanted to see just how far she'd go. She kept going. He made me feel like I mattered again. Not in a romantic way. Just like I was still worth something. And I let it go too far. I admit that. But you don't understand how isolated I felt. I stared at her. You were isolated, I repeated. So your solution was to cheat on me? During your own son's birthday? Her eyes glossed over. Don't say it like that. How should I say it? There was a long silence. And then she tried the next move. Tears. She looked down. Her voice cracked. I never meant to hurt you. I didn't plan this. I was just so lost. And now, I might lose everything. There it was again. The word I. Over and over. I felt. I need. Never once did she say our son's name. Never once did she ask how he was doing. How he'd felt when his dad left the party and didn't come back. All of it was about her. I realized something standing there on that porch. Lisa wasn't sorry she cheated. She was sorry she got caught. And she wasn't trying to rebuild. She was trying to control the story. Get out in front of it. Make it sound like a marital drift instead of a betrayal. She reached for my hand. I stepped back. I'm not ready to touch you, I said. And honestly, I'm not sure I ever will be again. She stood there, silent, stunned. I let her feel it. I'll call you when I'm ready, I said. Don't show up here again uninvited. Then I opened the door, walked back inside, and left her standing on the porch. It started small. A few people I knew, mutual friends, co-workers, even one of the moms from our kids' preschool, started texting me random things like, hey, just checking in. Heard you and Lisa are going through something. Sorry, man. Let me know if you ever want to talk. Breaks happen. People change. Breaks? People change? I hadn't told anyone anything beyond my brother and my parents. and they definitely weren't out there spreading details. So I knew exactly where this version was coming from. I ignored most of the messages. Didn't feel like correcting strangers. But one of them, Jenna, who used to work with Lisa and still occasionally came to our backyard barbecues, was more direct. She texted me, "Hey, look, I don't want to be in the middle of anything, but Lisa told me you guys have been distant for a while and she made a mistake with someone who showed her attention. She said it was emotional, not physical." I stared at the message, laughed out loud, bitterly. Not physical. I remembered her hands in his back pockets, his face inches from hers. The intimacy, the complete disregard for who might walk in. That wasn't emotional. That was practiced. I replied, "Thanks for reaching out. Just so you know, I caught them in a room alone during our son's birthday. Hands where they shouldn't be." I left immediately. She didn't call me for almost 24 hours. Jenna left it on read. Didn't reply. A day later, my mom said she'd run into Lisa's aunt at the grocery store. "She said she's praying for you both," my mom said gently. "That Lisa told her you'd been distant for a long time, and it all got too heavy." I clenched my jaw. She was telling everyone, not just about the distance, but about how she felt abandoned, unseen, neglected. And the worst part? Some people believed her, because that's how Lisa worked. She never screamed, never broke things. She hurt you with the softest voice in the room. A few nights later, I got a message from Ethan's wife. Yeah, his wife. I didn't even know her name until that moment. She introduced herself simply. "Hi, I'm Claire. I think we should talk." I messaged back immediately. "Yeah, we should." She called me that same night. Her voice was calm, but you could tell she was holding something down, holding a lot down. "I had suspicions," she said, "for months. He was always texting, always smiling at his phone. Weird excuses for being home late, but I never had proof." I stayed quiet. "Lisa told me it was just a misunderstanding," Claire continued, "that you walked in on something innocent, that maybe we both overreacted." I couldn't help it. I laughed again. "I'm guessing that's not the full story," Claire said. "No," I said. "It's not even close." We talked for over an hour, compared timelines, notes, lies, patterns. We figured out that what Lisa called a few weeks had actually been at least 4 months, probably more. They had met up outside of school events, at coffee shops, at a gym she never told me she joined, once even at Ethan's office. She told Claire they had been working on a community fundraiser. There was no fundraiser. Claire told me she was considering separation. She had 2 kids. It wasn't an easy decision. "I just didn't want to believe it," she said. I kept thinking I must be crazy. "No," I said quietly. "You're not crazy. You're just married to someone who lies easily." We said goodbye, agreed to keep in touch. And when I hung up, I just sat there in the dark, phone in my lap, heart racing. This wasn't just about infidelity anymore. This was 2 people actively rewriting reality to protect themselves. And they didn't care who they dragged down with them. She showed up at my parents' house again. This time, she didn't knock softly and wait. She pounded. It was evening. I had just put my son to bed in the guest room after we watched some cartoons together. He still didn't ask why we were here or why Mommy wasn't, and I wasn't ready to explain it. I opened the door halfway. She stepped forward like she was going to walk right in. I didn't move. She stopped. Her face was different this time. Not sad, not remorseful, tight, jaw clenched, like she'd come to win an argument she thought I'd started. "You've been talking to people," she said flatly. I didn't answer. "Claire called me," she added. "I don't know what you told her, but she's now accusing Ethan of stuff that never happened." I almost laughed. Never happened. 4 months of secret meetings, hands in pockets, stolen looks, and now it never happened? "She deserves the truth," I said, just like I did. Lisa shook her head. "You're trying to make me look like a monster. You did that all by yourself." Her voice sharpened. "You don't think I'm hurting too? You think this has been easy for me? You walked out without even saying goodbye to your own son. Do you know how confused he was?" There it was. The shift, from guilt to blame. I took a deep breath. I left because I caught my wife cheating on me during our son's birthday party. That's not confusing. That's survival. "I made a mistake," she said again, through gritted teeth. "But you've made this worse than it had to be. Telling people, getting others involved, blowing it up. You don't get to decide how big this is," I said. You don't get to cheat and then manage the fallout. Her eyes started to water. You used to protect me, she said quietly. Now you're turning everyone against me. No, I said. You did that. I'm just done covering for it. She stood there for a moment, blinking, shaking her head like I was the one being cruel. I was lonely, she whispered. I felt invisible. I was tired, I said. I worked. I cleaned. I helped raise our kid. I gave you everything I had. And you used that time, when I was exhausted, to sneak off with someone else. She didn't respond. I leaned against the doorframe. You know what the saddest part is? I said. I believed in you. I actually thought we were stronger than this. I never once, not once, thought you'd do something like this to me. Lisa looked up at me, and for a second I saw something shift in her expression. Not shame, not guilt, just calculation. Then she said it. Maybe if you'd paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have needed someone else. It was quiet after that. So quiet I could hear the ticking of the clock in the hallway. I closed the door halfway. You should go, I said. She didn't move. I looked her dead in the eyes. If you say one more word like that, I won't just walk away. I'll make sure you don't get to rewrite this story. Her lip twitched. She hesitated. Then she turned and walked away, the porch light casting a long, narrow shadow behind her. I stood there for a while after she left, and something inside me clicked. She wasn't going to stop. She was going to spin, lie, project, until it wasn't a betrayal anymore. It was a misunderstanding, a breakdown in communication, an emotional drift. I wasn't angry anymore. I was focused, because if she wanted to control the story, she'd have to fight me for it. After that last conversation, something shifted in me. It wasn't a breakdown. It wasn't rage. It was colder than that. Still, controlled. Lisa had crossed a line, and not just in the laundry room. She had tried to make me the problem. She had twisted the truth for others, for herself, and then dared to twist it in front of me. I realized I had spent so long believing she was the woman I married that I couldn't see who she'd become. That ended now. The next few days, I kept quiet, didn't respond to her texts, didn't comment when mutual friends reached out. I didn't explain myself to anyone anymore. Instead, I started documenting everything: dates, text messages, conversations with people who had seen them together, moments when she contradicted herself. I started writing down things I remembered from months before, little details that seemed meaningless at the time. Like the time she came home from a coffee meeting and had that distant look in her eyes. Or the weekend she said she was taking our son to her sister's, but came back without the overnight bag she always brought. Things that hadn't made sense until now. I wasn't sure why I was collecting it all, but something in my gut told me I need to be ready, because Lisa wasn't going to take this loss quietly. A few evenings later, I sat down with my parents at the kitchen table. I told them everything. I'd kept a lot of it from them before, partly out of shame, partly because I didn't want to make it real. But now it was time. When I finished talking, my dad leaned back and just nodded. He didn't say much. That's how he is. But my mom reached across the table and put her hand on mine. You didn't do anything wrong, she said. Don't let her make you doubt that. I nodded, swallowed hard. Later that week, Lisa sent me a message. If we're going to fix this, we need to start communicating again. If not for us, then at least for him. Our son. The first time she had mentioned him directly in any of our messages. It would have meant something if it hadn't come attached to another version of, let's pretend this never happened. I didn't answer. Instead, I talked to my brother, who's been through a messy separation himself. I didn't want advice. I just wanted to say it out loud. I'm not going back, I said. He nodded slowly. Good. And I don't want her rewriting this for our kid either. I'm not letting him grow up thinking I just walked out. He looked at me and said something I'll never forget. Then don't let her control the future. That night, I sat in my room and looked through old photos. From the early days. Our wedding. Our first apartment. That road trip where our car broke down and we ended up sleeping in the back seat, laughing about it like idiots. And I felt nothing. Not nostalgia. Not sadness. Just distance. Like I was looking at someone else's life. Someone else's wife. And maybe I was. It happened on a Tuesday. I was picking up my son from preschool. I'd been doing that more lately, keeping him close, keeping myself grounded. He ran to me like always, backpack bouncing behind him, hair stuck up from nap time. The moment we got to the car, he said something that stopped me cold. "Mommy says you're mad because you don't love us anymore." I froze. I buckled his seatbelt quietly, kissed his head, and shut the door. Then I just stood there, one hand on the roof of the car, staring at the gravel under my feet, heart pounding. She had brought him into it. She had turned my son into a tool. Until now, I'd told myself we could shield him, that he didn't need to know what happened between us, that he just needed love from both sides. But Lisa had already broken that agreement, quietly, subtly, like everything else she did. I got into the driver's seat and asked him gently, "Did Mommy say anything else?" He shrugged, "Just that you were mad at her a lot. And now we have to be really good or you'll leave again." I looked at him in the rearview mirror. His eyes were wide. He wasn't angry. He was scared. Something snapped in me then. This wasn't just between Lisa and me anymore. She had poisoned our son's view of me. She had made my absence his fault, my silence into punishment. I drove home in silence, my hands clenched on the steering wheel. That night, after he fell asleep, I sat in the hallway outside the guest room. The monitor buzzed quietly on the floor beside me, and I made my decision. This was no longer about heartbreak. This was about defense. I called her the next morning, first time in days. She picked up on the second ring, voice quiet. "Hey, you talked to him about this?" I said. She didn't even try to deny it. "I had to explain something," she said. "He's confused. He's hurting. You told him I didn't love him." "I didn't say it like that. You told him I left because I was mad, that it's his job to keep me from leaving again." Silence. "You crossed the line, Lisa. I was trying to protect him." "No," I cut her off. "You were trying to protect yourself. You turned my son into a shield. And I'm done." I could hear her breathing pick up. "What does that mean?" "It means I'm not going to let you control the story anymore. Not with me. Not with him. Not with anyone." She started to say something, her voice rising, but I hung up. It was the last time I spoke to her directly. After that call, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time. My mom came in, saw me sitting there, and didn't ask anything. She just put a warm mug in front of me, the way she used to when I was a kid and something at school had gone wrong. I looked up at her and said, calmly, "I need to do something I've been avoiding." She nodded, and I went to my room, opened my laptop, and started preparing. Not out of anger, out of clarity. I didn't do it out of spite. I didn't want to punish her. I just wanted to protect my son and myself from the war she had started behind a smile. So I filed. It wasn't sudden. I took my time, consulted quietly, gathered everything. Messages, photos, statements, dates, the timeline, the contradictions, the names of the people who saw them together when she swore it wasn't like that. The case wasn't dramatic in court. There was no screaming, no gavel slamming, no teary-eyed confessions. It was quieter than I expected. Her lawyer tried to frame it as emotional distance, a breakdown in the marriage, and a regrettable lapse in judgment. They said Lisa had taken full responsibility and wanted to preserve the child's sense of stability. But my team had the dates, the silence, the messages to Ethan, the photos of her at school events where she claimed she hadn't even seen him, the statements from friends who'd heard her say it wasn't cheating if it didn't hurt anyone. We laid it all out, methodically, calmly. No revenge, just truth. The judge's ruling came fast. I was awarded primary custody, full decision-making authority. Lisa would get regular visitation, but under a clear structure. The court acknowledged deliberate manipulation of the child's perception of his father and said there was enough evidence to support the concern of emotional influence. In short, they saw through her. She sat there with her lips tight, face pale, her lawyer whispering something she didn't seem to hear. She never looked at me. I didn't feel triumphant. I didn't fist pump or smile. I just felt finished, like I'd finally exhaled after holding my breath for months. We left the courthouse separately. I stood outside for a while, watching strangers walk by. Business people, tourists, a man eating a sandwich on a bench. Life went on, like it didn't care that mine had just changed forever. And maybe that was the point. Life does go on. You survive things you never imagined you could. You stand up again, even when everything in you wants to lie down and disappear. I got in my car. I picked up my son from preschool. He ran into my arms like always. No hesitation, no confusion, just trust. And I knew, right then, that I had done the right thing. I hadn't fought to win. I'd fought to protect. And I did. That's the end. Let her spin her version to whoever still wants to believe it. Let her play the wounded victim. I don't care anymore. I've got my son. I've got the truth. And I've got peace. She lost all three. And that's not just justice. That's closure.